Well, hello, my fellow car models. How are you doing today? We're going to take another retrospective on into the world of Scale Auto Enthusiast. We're going to look at an old copy from way back when, but this one is going to be a contest annual. There's some neat stuff in this magazine, and it's from 1989. How cool is that? So let's go ahead and get on into this one. All right, this was a really special issue for me and a really cool year because the very first show that I ever attended was covered in this book. Of course, my model didn't get in there. But also, this model, I have mentioned this before, that is an old friend who we lost a few years ago, Jim Wood. He was a local guy here, and he was pretty much the guy who pretty much made things happen in the world of model cars here in Phoenix. Pretty much kind of ran the club, ran the big show that took place out all through the 90s and the 2000s. And he was an amazing model builder, and he would win up in Salt Lake. I believe even that car made it up to Salt Lake and did very well up there. So he was a very respected builder and just a good guy. So he got into this magazine, but this was really cool. Everybody was real excited when this came out, and he was on the cover too. It was pretty cool. But 1989, Scaled Auto Contest Annual. Let's get into this one, man. There's going to be a lot to cover, so it's going to be a long one. It's really cool. And there it says NASCAR Modified Jim Wood right there. And so we're going to move on to the shows. There's black and white pictures, but there's colored pictures. So this starts out in 1987. This is going to be going through some years here, actually, of the contests that were going on back then. So this was in Pleasanton, California. Man, there was always some Jack Davis. There was always some heavy hitters out in California back in those days. There was some they got in the magazines quite a lot. And Jack Davis, I've talked about him before. He's kind of like the granddad of slammers, really. All his models were just curbside slammers with blacked out windows. He was kind of the guy that brought that to the hobby, really. He was just really known for those. I got to meet Jack back in 1989 at that first show I went to and saw his models up close. They were impressive for being just slammers. And this was just a cool show. Great a bunch of California builders. See if we got some names I might recognize. Maybe you guys will. Wow, these are names I haven't seen in a long time. Roy Sorensen right there. Roy's still around. Here we go, Sunnydale. This is, again, another California show. The 1988 NNL Western Nationals. So this is the NNL West, basically, right here, I believe. Yeah, I wonder if this was the first one. Yeah, I believe this was the first one, 1988. This was the first NNL West in Sunnydale, California. They called it the NNL Western Nationals at that time. I believe they're still the same. Same thing going on. Oh, yeah. Mike Carroll's Nuclear Waste. You old timers will know about that. And it was probably talked about over there in the Salt Lake show that passed a couple months ago. Larry Porter, I remember seeing this car, this model. I had seen it before. It had a lot of influence on me on my little 40 that I did that I've done a couple videos on. Helicopter ZZ Top car in pink. That was Bruce Treadwell. This is still that show. Kind of interesting. Oh, look. A model of the photographer at a model show. Here we go. Fort Wayne. Should be the third annual Fort Wayne Model Car Show and Swap Meet. I mean, the models are so spectacular today, but you look at these, and these guys were getting it on. There was just some amazing stuff done, and there wasn't the aftermarket available back then as there is today either. Chuck Poi. You still see Chuck on the Facebooks. He's been building old NASCARs. Still is. You'll see he'll post a bunch of new cars that he's... If you're on any of the Facebook groups, you always see Chuck's models. He's always doing some really cool old vintage NASCAR models. That's his main bag. He does some really cool models. That's the old Rex White car. Boise. Going over to Boise, Idaho. And lots of trucks. Go figure, huh? Boise Roadster show. Oh, here we go. Got some colored stuff. Some nice Dave Burkett. Albany, New York, huh? Okay. What do we got going here? Lots of street machines. Ooh, I hope I find some more pictures of that. I think I've seen this before. Dave Carnival built the Banks Bonneville GTA. That car, I remember it being in Hot Rod, and I just dug because I loved third gen Trans Ams. I owned a couple back in the 80s, and that car caught my eye back in the day, and I thought somebody built a model of it. I kind of always wanted to. I believe I've seen somewhere another picture of this car, a little bit better picture of it. This is Brampton. It's up in Canada. It says the 1988, the Canadian National. Got some motorcycles going on here. Woo. Oh, look at that super modified there. Who did that? That is John Nicolades or something like that. I might destroy names, I'm sorry. If any of you are still out there and you watch these YouTube videos, hey, we're doing our best. Hey, this is kind of cool. Now, even back in '88, this was a very rare and hard to find kit. We see them all the time, those Tyrone Malone drag trucks, but someone took one and made a monster truck out of it. But back then, that was a expensive kit. That was hard to find. It was pretty rare in 1988. Stretched limo from a Beretta. Hey, what the heck, right? Ventura, California. Oh. We're going to see some cool stuff here. Mike Flynn. I may have mentioned this before. I saw this model, and I remember this thing blew me away. And this was when the Nova came out, and Mike blew this out. Now, for those of you who don't remember, when AMT came out with their 66 Nova, they came out with just the street version, the regular stock version first. And I think it was maybe a month or two later that the Pro Street version came out. Well, before the Pro Street version came out, Mike Flynn already built a Pro Street. I remember seeing this thing, and the thing that you can even see it kind of in the picture right here. I remember this door being open looking, and I'll never forget it because I did it in all my models. I had to do that in a model. I don't know if you can tell, but you see the seatbelt going down? There's actually a bolt head on the fixture for the seatbelt being bolted to the floor. I just thought that was neat. That's the biggest thing I remember of that model. Not to mention the fact, I was looking forward to getting a hold of one of those Chevy 2s, the 66 Chevy 2. I wanted a Pro Street one. I just thought that was neat, and he went ahead and did it. I believe he used like the Camaro Pro Stock chassis for that. A lot of other Chester Hawkins. Chester used to come here to the Phoenix shows a lot. He was a fantastic builder. He really would do some really trick paint jobs too. Northeast Challenge, Totowa, New Jersey. Am I saying that right? Kill me if I'm not. I remember seeing this diorama a ton of times in Scale Auto. It was always cool. And the guys are not working on the car, they're working on model cars. We got priority issues here, guys. Priorities. Wake up. This is from Australia. Campbellfield, Australia. They covered them from all over the world. Let's give you a nice gander of what was going on in Australia. A lot of trucks, mate. Oh, look at that. It's a Falcon XB race car. Oh, how freaking cool is that? Wow. Oh, he took an Otaki Mustang and converted it into an XB. They put XC Falcon, maybe they call it Alan Moffat stock race car. How cool is that? Cantor, Illinois. Minneapolis. Cool little dioramas and stuff. Yeah, looks like we're back in Totowa, New Jersey again there. I guess they had 2 shows going on. How cool is that? Interesting mat to lay the models down and take pictures. Some cool models. Holy cow. I remember this Rocco's painting when that got built, like right when that Oldsmobile came out. This was one of the first ones that showed up in the magazines. I saw it a ton of times. Oh, this is a good one. This is the Long Beach show. This is my first model show I ever went to. I've talked about it a ton of times. There it is, the Southern California Model-rama. This was the first show, and my mind was completely blown because I saw and met builders that I had been seeing in Scale Auto. Ron Bolton, he was so cool to me. We talked on the phone a bunch before I came out there. When I got there, just treated me like he was waiting for me. It was crazy. Was a young kid, never been into a model show before, and the first guy I met, because I had seen this model before in the magazines, and I got to see it in person, but it turns out that it's his brother's model. But Jim Bunch, that's Jim's model. I remember, I got a little story about this funny car, and I get a kick out of. And it was so cool. Like back in those days, not a lot of people were making their own decals, but he was a graphic designer. So there it is, Bunch, old Jim Bunch. Back when I was at the NHRA show, if you go back and watch this video, I got back together with Jim and got to interview him, and he's a regular viewer, but he is one of my major influences in this hobby. That day, I was this young kid, and I went and talked to him, and he was so nice to me and appreciated, I guess, I was going on about his models, and he taught me so much about the hobby and about building model cars, and we just hung out that whole day and started a long friendship. We'd go years not ever talking to one another, just living in different parts of the country, but we'd always, after that, I'd go to California. Sometimes he'd come out here from shows, and it was cool bumping into him again. I hope to be able to bump into him again at a show in California here soon. Jim's a wonderful person, still building great models. My goodness. I've got this thing about wanting to one day recreate that model. Even though it's not his, it's his brother's. I guess his brother moved out of country, and he was taking it to shows for him. I love Camaros. I love white Camaros. I just thought that was a different look for a Camaro. That's really neat. That was a really important show to me. This is really what kicked it off for me. It was good. We got a date right there. October 16th, 1988. That was really where it went for me. A lot of things happened that day. Such an important, it really was a turning point in my life. I'm not going to get into that boring story with you. A lot was going on that weekend. I was actually out in California for a different reason, for a different side of what my life was back then. It was kind of a double hitter. I wanted to get out there and get to this show, and I broke away from the people I was with for a day because I was out there for more of a music thing. But that day was really the day that I went from wanting to be a rock star and being a model car guy. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. True fact. True fact. This show changed my life. Is it for the better? Some would say yes. I don't know. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. And a couple other people I want to show. There's another one of Jim's. I remember looking at this. He showed me that model, and he says, you gotta have something bright and snappy for them to see it when it pops off the table. That's why he put the yellow and green stripes on the car, and it's bright white, and he had yellow wheels, and you gotta do that. Oh, back real quick. I'm gonna tell you your secrets, Jim. So this was what was funny about this car. He tells me he takes this model and he puts it in my hand, and oh my goodness, it was white. It was so heavy. And it's like, the engine block is hollow inside. Anything that was hollow, he filled it with something. I don't know if it was lead shot or whatever, but he actually put weight into the model. He always felt like having his models should be heavy, you know, because back in those days, it was pretty customary at these model shows for the judges to pick the models up and look at them, turn them upside down. I have a model, I still haven't busted out. I got to do a Luka's builds on this one particular model, the one model that I took to the show, that I could have possibly, my first show, maybe got a 3rd place or something. Bammo! That right there. That blew me out of contention right there, because there wasn't a diorama class. So this guy brought these 2 dioramas. I'll never forget it. I was gotta admit, I was kind of upset because I pretty much knew I had it. I knew I was going to place in that class. I could just tell. I believe I was even told that. I think Ron told me that at the end of the show, that if those models didn't come in, and they came in late too, I probably would have gotten a 3rd place, which would have been so cool for my very first show. But don't you worry, I'll tell the story later. I went back to the 2nd show and I wreaked revenge, and it worked. But yeah. This Jerry Whistling, are you around, dude? You still got my award? You got my 3rd place, pal? I want to see a picture of it. Oh yeah, he had 2 of those. They knocked me right out of contention. And another guy who later became a friend of mine, and he moved here to Phoenix. I was in the club, and then he moved right before I did back east. He moved to Charlotte. He actually worked on a Winston Cup team. He was the guy by the name of Bill Fife. Last I heard about Bill, he retired and he actually moved away from Charlotte. But he worked for Alan Kowicki and for a long time, and then stayed with that team after Alan passed away, and it went through some ownership. But he had a career in NASCAR, both there, and he was quite the NASCAR builder. I learned a lot about NASCAR from him too, but I remember this car. I remember seeing it in person, and then when he moved out here, I saw it at his house, and I was like, an Oldsmobile? What the heck? An Oldsmobile? Yeah, he took a Buick, and there was a guy who made a resin, or actually it was vacuum formed, made a vacuum form conversion kit that went on to the nose and the tail. You changed a couple things of the existing monogram Buick, and you made it into an Oldsmobile. But I just thought that was cool. And I love AJ Foyt cars. I want to build that car one day too, because I built a couple of AJ Foyt cars. And now I've got plenty of AJ Foyt decals because Salvino's JR Models keep sending them to me. Bedford. What is this? This is the Southwest Challenge? Is this? Oh, it's Bedford, Texas. The Southwest Challenge. The Southwest Challenge, that was, I'll tell you, probably almost just as important of a model show back in the 80s as the Greater Salt Lake show was. I mean, it was a big, important show. There's some heavy hitter names here if you were to read it from back in those days. And man, as a matter of fact, Gustafson even showed. That's Gustafson's car right there. Mark Gustafson showed up with that. That was a he did a whole build series on this custom, the Macari it was called. Actually, if you ever find old issues of Scale Auto showing the build-up of that car, it's quite fascinating. Oh yeah, see, big heavy hitters. Look at the models that were there. There's Don Farney. I've talked about him. We lost Don a few years ago. He was just a fascinating builder. And I remember talking to him about this. He built this model before Monogram or Revell came out with the Pro Stock 88 Thunderbird that they were about to come out with. He shows up to one of the shows, he told me. I believe it was Salt Lake, and all the guys from Revell were there, and they saw that, and they go, hey, we're working on that. And I think they tried to make an offer to buy that kit off of him to use it. They asked him if he would paint it in the Motorcraft colors, and they could use it for pictures for promoting the kit, because it really wasn't totally developed and there wasn't a model built yet of it. And it might have become the box art, but Don was like, actually, I'm going to go back. From what I remember, Don was building this to be the Motorcraft Thunderbird. And what happened was he took it in primer to the on the primer table at Salt Lake, and that's when the Revell guys went, whoa, dude. And then that's why it got painted in that color scheme, and Don just put his name on it because he goes, well, if they're coming out with a kit of the Motorcraft car, why should I bother building the Motorcraft car? That was his thinking. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm digging these up from years, talking to these guys, so that's why it's all jumbled all over the place, but you get it. The cool stories. That's what's great about looking at this old stuff. Bam! I get all this old memories rushing through my skull. This is Albany again. We're still in 1988. There were so many shows. Even, I tell you, we had tons of shows even here in the Southwest. It's really dried up a lot in the Southwest. You guys back east, I talked to Tim Brown from Throttle Power. That guy, he's always going to model shows. That's why I don't like him. I don't like him at all. He's always going to model shows. Makes me mad. But all the model shows are back east. Makes me sad.
You're watching the Luka C channel on YouTube.
Boise, Idaho? The Wizard. I remember seeing that race team. That's kind of a junk picture, but I remember seeing other pictures of that. Who was it that was the builder of that? James Mattingly? Man, so many people have come and gone through this. Oh, whoa, I wasn't even prepared. Okay, check this out. Someone recently... please, I forgot who it was. This model turned up on the Luka C Model Car Hobby Headquarters Facebook group, but it wasn't this model. This rendering was done, I think it was in a Hot Rod magazine, and this is Jim Lytle. And it showed up in Scale Auto a couple of times, and I responded to the guy that showed a picture. His model was really cool. Can't remember who it is, but I have found pictures and I've put them up. I asked him, was that the model that showed up in Scale Auto a bunch of times? He said no. He said he just built it because of that right there. Seeing that in the magazine, and his was beautiful. But I just remember seeing that rendering coming to life by old Jim Lytle. And where was this again? What show is this? This was in Boise, Idaho. Figures. I tell you, I'm sorry it's so long. Look at how much more we got to go. We're about halfway through the little bit. We just passed the halfway mark. Holy cow. So many shows to cover. Oh boy. All right. It's a long one, and we got a lot more to go. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to cut it off here. We're going to end this as part one, and holy mackerel. Those contest annuals are big, and I got a lot to say. I hope you guys are enjoying the stories. It's bringing back great memories. I'm having a really good time with this, but even I'm losing my mind here. So I'm going to cut it off here. I still got a whole lot to go. We're at like around 23 minutes. And we got probably another 20 minutes to go or so. So part one, this was it. We're going to do part two probably in a few days if you want to keep up, because there is still a lot of really cool contest coverage here. So I want to thank you all for watching and keeping up and listening to my stories. I'm getting bombarded with really cool memories when I look at this stuff. And that's what's so cool about this hobby and where it takes you to. And when you've been in it for a long time and you look at old magazines like this and you remember being at some of these shows and knowing some of these people and seeing some of these models in person, yeah, you get sentimental. So thanks a ton for watching. And we're just going to go ahead right here and say, keep building model cars. That's what I'm saying this time. Why? Why do we keep building model cars? The answer is really simple. Because they're so darn fun. Here's the producer.